Okay, so I'm going to start with oil and just doing a little sketch to work from underneath my my painting, and I'm going to start that with burnt umber. I think that the warm tone that comes through is really nice, and it has a kind of classical feel to it when you work with burnt umber. So just really quickly, I'm going to do a little sketch. And I'm using a brush that's probably, it may look a little larger, a little more clumsy than I need, but what that does is force me to be a little bit looser. Okay, I just need the basic shape. I don't need to be overly precise. There's all sorts of edits that I can make later and, make it more lifelike, I guess, but I need just a little bit of an idea where I'm going. The next thing I'm going to do is actually add a little bit of a background to work with. And the nice thing about that is that I immediately get a sense of depth by doing that. And it just gives me something other than the white of the canvas to work from. Give me a moodier piece than if I work with the light background that I have in here. If I wanted to have a little bit of that look, I could put something behind it so that it would give me a little bit more of that look to work from. Again, I'm just going to do a little sketch, so I'm not going to be overly precise. I do want a dark side and a light side, so I'm going to put that in as well. I do have a lot of light right now, just mainly so you all can see, but it's there's a distinct cast shadow there, and I'm going to work with that too. Add a little bit of yellow ochre to that mixture, just to warm it up a little bit. And a tiny bit of white, which will kind of gray things up a little. And this refers to a technique called working with a bistre. Bistre. Bistre is this grayish, sort of yellowish, dark brown. And again, I can go even darker over here if I want. I can do lots of editing later, but again, this just gives me some depth to work with already built in. Okay, then the next thing I want to do is start painting my lemon. Now, working wet on wet can be messy and you can get mud sometimes. And that's when your complementary colors mix together and you get a brown sometimes that you didn't intend. But I don't actually mind getting a little bit of mud if it's good mud. And in this case, I'm working with a dirty brush, so it's going to be kind of muddy to begin with. This is just a little bit of a kind of dirty yellow ochre and umber mixture with some Hansa yellow in it. Your view maybe is slightly different than mine, so the finished shape may be a little bit different than what you were seeing there. And again, I have to keep picking up some pigment just to work with. And I'm not really super worried about getting everything perfectly accurate at the moment. I can always edit it with my background or the brighter colors of the lemon itself. Now I'm going more toward that pure Hansa yellow, You could use cadmium if you want to. I try to avoid the cadmium paints. They're not good for you. They do have nice color. Again, this is pretty muddy right now, but that's okay. I'm going to work with the mud. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and blend some of that together, just for my underpainting purposes. And then I will pick up just the color itself, like I said, and put it in place, kind of not blend it out too much. This is a semi-transparent color, so it doesn't have a lot of opacity. And if you mix it, it easily goes away. Okay, now if I want that bright spot to be in there, I need to add just a tiny bit of white. And you can leave just a little bit of the light in there, and don't blend it out. And you can retain some of the light that way. A little bit of glare in the view there, so I'll make sure to turn it so that you all can see, what it really does look like in the end. Okay, now if I want to change my brush stroke or the texture of it, I can come in and just break it up a little, which I want to do because I don't really want long, kind of smooth brush strokes. I want shorter, kind of broken up pouncing strokes. Just, it mimics the texture of the lemon a little bit, and gives me a little bit more character that way. And now I can go in with the dirty brush again and just put in a little bit, pick up a little bit more yellow, or sorry, burnt umber. Put in a little bit more of those kind of shadowed areas. It's okay if I go a little bit darker than I intend, that's fine. Can always add more and brighten it up if I need to. Okay, now I don't mind the sort of shaggy edges. That really bothers some people, but I kind of like some loose painting sometimes, and I like the dips and divots on things and blemishes, so you don't have to put that in on your own work, but I like it. I enjoy that. If I want to, I'm just going to clean my brush for a second using a coil jar to clean. If I wanted to lighten up down here just a little bit to suggest the table, I can do that. And if I really want to emphasize those shadows, I can do one of two things. I could use some black if I really want to in the burnt umber, or I can actually use blue. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use ultramarine blue mixed in with my burnt umber. And you'll see it gives me quite a dark value there in terms of the color. And we'll push that shadow back behind there just a bit more. And sort of a warmer blackish tone without having to use black. I have no objection to using black. I'm not a painter who has any objection to using black, but I think it has its place. And I tend to save it for when I really need something super dark and to give me that extra oomph. If I want to suggest a little bit of the table inside that shadow, I can. It might be hard for you all to see it. I'll brighten it up just, or lighten it up just a little bit so you can see it in there. But that's sort of a little bit of reflected light, so I may or may not want that. And then the next thing, again, I'm keeping this really loose and light. It's just a study. I don't have to be overly precise. I use the blue in the burnt umber, and I'm also going to use a little bit of it on the lemon itself in mixing just a slight touch of green. And it may or may not show up very well in the video, but we'll see. And get a little bit more intense. Okay, now I'm not sure you can see that super well, but it's there. Try to get it from another angle so you can see it. Now the next thing I might want to do is actually bring a little bit more shadow around on this lemon here. And I just pounced just a tiny little bit more in there. I could also bring a tiny bit more shadow in just to lose that little corner thing there. Okay, and there's a little lemon study. It's rough and loose, but that's one of the ways of working wet on wet and just being really deliberate with your marks. I can also stretch this out just a little bit, get that a little bit softer, but there is one way to do it.